This is a PokePress special report. Hi, I'm Stephen Reich from the PokePress PIRN Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, on the phone with Walt Ribeiro, who recently rearranged the Pokemon theme in an orchestral style. So Walt, first of all, where are you from, and how'd you get into doing music in general and this particular type of music?
Hey, okay, well, first I just want to say thanks. So the way that I got into this whole, I guess that you can call it like this whole like classical thing is that I started playing jazz guitar when I was 16. Then when I went off to college, I was a major in jazz guitar performance, and then I switched from there to music composition. I enjoyed writing music more than playing it. It was a lot more than that. I actually got tendonitis and I got carpal tunnel syndrome in college, and so I had to change my major. But to make a long story short, when I graduated college, I started arranging popular songs because I released my own music and no one really enjoyed it. And then there was this one musician, his name was Jonathan Colton. He had a remix contest for his fans. And everyone was doing kind of like rock and roll stuff. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to do like an orchestration of his music. And his fans, like they all kind of enjoyed it. So I did another one, then another one, and then I kind of branched that idea off into doing Lady Gaga and Guns N' Roses and Adele and The Roots and Bruno Mars and Foo Fighters. And then this week I did Pokemon, and a lot of people enjoyed my Pokemon. So maybe I'll do more Pokemon. But it's one of my favorite shows, and I wanted to pay tribute to it.
All right, so you say it was one of your favorite shows, so I assume you grew up watching Pokemon. What eventually led to you doing this version of it?
Well, so it's funny. There's different versions of the actual song. When I go to arranging a piece, and it's not just this version of Pokemon. I mean, it's like every song, whether it's the Beatles or Pokemon or whoever, is that there's usually like 15 different versions. Like there's like a 15-second edit. There's a 30-second, edit for the TV show. There's a 1-minute radio edit. So I kind of have to like research and do this whole thing where I'm trying to listen to all these different versions and then pick the best one. So I'm a big fan of the show. Played, well, I didn't. You know what? The one thing I didn't do is I didn't play the games. I never played. I never got into like the whole like Nintendo DS Pokemon thing. But I watch all the shows. I mean, I was obsessed with the show. So I wanted to pay tribute to it. So I had to do some research, and the one I picked was the extended long version with the guitar solo. That's the one that I picked, and it turned out cool.
Why don't you go a little bit into it from a technical perspective? How did you go about choosing what parts to assign to what instruments? Structurally, what did you do with it? Did you play around with it at all, or is it fairly straightforward?
It's pretty straightforward. One of my orchestration, I guess, techniques you could call it, is I try not to steer away from the original composition because one is that it's a tribute, not a remix, and I really kind of stand firm on that concept. Is that if you're paying tribute to something, you want to just recreate it and keep it as close to the original as possible, but giving it the flair of the orchestra and your technique as an arranger. So, all like the cool little like trills, or when you hear Ash go, Pokemon, or, I mean, if he screams, but then you want the flutes to go, da or something. So, you don't really want to change the notes, you don't want to change the rhythms. And even the concept of when you're arranging is that if verse one, is a guy singing and then the chorus is a girl, then the timbre changes. So maybe you should change the instrument too. Maybe verse one should be the violin and then the chorus should be the flutes. And then, if the guy comes in again on the second verse, then let's have the violins play again on the second verse. Like that you almost like assign an instrument to each vocalist, if that makes sense. I mean, that's part of like the actual technique too. That I use for my arranging.
I see. How long did it take you to, do all the actual recording, and what software do you use to do that?
So the software that I use is Sibelius, and that's what I use to engrave it all. And my sequencer is called Digital Performer 7.1. And the entire concept, I mean, from start to finish, I mean, it's funny, it's like there's different things that I'm doing, like between choosing the song, looking at like the iTunes charts and listening to my community of trying to pick which songs to do, or, even if it's simple things, that you have to transcribe the song onto a piano chart, and then you have to arrange that. So the entire concept from start to finish each week takes me about 55 to 60 hours. And so like the first 10 hours could be, something like trying to pick the song, the next 10 or, doing the arranging, the next 10 or orchestrating it, the next 10 is producing, mixing, and mastering it. And then, I guess that the last 10 would be like publishing it and telling people about it and marketing and sending out the newsletter and things like that. I mean, it's literally from start to finish, it's my entire week.
Are there any parts of the song that you particularly wanted to call out for listeners to pay attention to?
I guess, that's actually a good question. I guess that the most powerful part of the song that I think listeners, will kind of gravitate towards the most are the last 10 seconds because it kind of builds up. I mean, what I was explaining in the actual blog post about this piece is that it's about fighting for something. And the lyrics, they explain about, we can do this, but we have to come together, and this is how we're going to make the world a better place with Pokemon. And so that concept of how it kind of starts off with a simple idea and then it grows, I kind of have the orchestration kind of build off that same idea. I mean, it starts very soft, it starts relatively soft. And then as the piece progresses and as the lyrics get more aggressive too, then at the very end, that's kind of like the loudest moment. And then I have this really cool, like low bass part, like this low cello part, which actually, I think adds I guess a lot of tension to the release, and then it kind of ends at the very end. And I think that's kind of the most powerful part that I think people will really, gravitate to. At least that's what I did. I loved it.
I see. All right. Now let's talk about some of your other work. You try to put out one of these pretty much every week. First of all, the day we're doing this interview, you just debuted another one. Which song is it? And tell us a little about it.
The one, yeah, so I do it every week, every Friday or Saturday. I try and publish a piece, which is good because I always say is that I don't have a whole lot to talk about because I can't travel and tour because I don't have an orchestra at like my disposal. I mean, I don't have an orchestra in my backyard, so I force myself to publish new music every week so that I always have something new and fresh to give to the people who support me. So this week I arranged the Beastie Boys "Fight for Your Right to Party," but the name of my arrangement is actually called Beastie Boys "Fight for Your Right to Orchestrate." So it's kind of like a play off of that, and it turned out pretty good. I enjoy doing a lot of rock stuff, which is what I enjoyed about arranging the actual Pokemon piece, is that it's very up tempo, it's very fast. There's a lot of like staccato parts in it, which staccato in music just means short. So, there's a lot of like short punctual parts in a lot of rock and roll, and in, this actual Pokemon piece, it's very up tempo. So I think those are the pieces that I enjoy arranging the most, and I hope that it shows through my product. I mean, I hope that when people hear it, they say, "Oh man, I mean, like there's like a lot of love and just care that this kid pours into it." And if they don't think that, then I didn't do my job.
Well, that's pretty cool. I took the opportunity to purchase a few of your other tracks so I could listen to them. One of them is "Set Fire to the Rain." Tell us a little bit about that arrangement.
Yeah, so what I'm starting to do is that if a piece gets really well received, I'll arrange another piece by that similar artist. So "Set Fire to the Rain" is an Adele piece, but it's actually the second Adele piece that I've done. I did "Rolling in the Deep" about maybe 4 months ago or so, and a lot of people loved it. So with that piece, it was good because "Rolling in the Deep" was more of kind of I don't want to say sad, but it was more of like a mysterious kind of a little bit of an up tempo piece. And the reason why I like "Set Fire to the Rain" is because it shows a different side of Adele, where it's a much more sad, thoughtful, kind of like sorrowful song, which I think lended well to like using, like the different violin strings and the different basses and to kind of really draw out that emotion. So that's where I wanted to go with "Set Fire to the Rain." And that's where I go with the idea of doing another piece by a similar artist. So if this Pokemon piece gets well received, which it's, been getting, then I hope to do another one by, I mean, it could be the ending theme. It could be a song, in the Pokemon series. I mean, it could be, it could be anything. And so I have a lot of fun doing it. It's pretty cool. Yeah, which is good because it brings me back to my youth.
And the Pokemon theme is far from the only one from your younger days that you've actually done. I checked out another one. You did a strings arrangement of Bye 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 by NSYNC. What's that one like?
Yeah, so NSYNC is it's I mean for all the flack that they get and the Backstreet Boys and Miley Cyrus and Britney Spears, because people say that they're bubblegum and they're all, too poppy. I actually I love all of that type of music. I'm not a diehard, like NSYNC fan, but I totally respect them. I think that what they do is fantastic. And same thing with like I feel the same way about Rebecca Black, and I feel the same way about all that kind of music. Is that I like to pay tribute to what I feel are well-written songs by good singers and vocalists and musicians and artisans, and I just want to kind of shed a little bit of a spotlight on those pieces. So where I wanted to go with the actual Bye 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 piece, is just to pay tribute and to make it as similar to the original as possible. But instead of Justin Timberlake singing or, someone else singing, it's now violins and flutes and trumpets and piccolos and pizzicato strings and timpani and vibraphone and kind of, make it kind of magical to kind of pay tribute to it. And, that's where I wanted to go with that piece.
All right, Walt. And if people want to check out your website, where can they find you online?
All my pieces are at fororchestra.com, and that's fororchestra.com. And the way that we came up with that title is that we arrange pop songs for orchestra. So it's just fororchestra.com.
All right. Well, I certainly look forward to seeing what you're going to come up with in the future, and we definitely appreciate you touching on the Pokemon theme like that.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, I would love to take suggestions from you and your audience too. If you have any ideas for, a second piece, that'd be kind of fun.
This has been Stephen Reich from the PokePress PRN Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, on the phone with Walt Ribeiro, who recently arranged the Pokemon theme for orchestra. This has been a PokePress special report.